Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so I'm now at the stage where I'm actually going to start the build up of the engine. So this is quite a special video. Excuse me. So far it's just all been stripping, cleaning, painting, all the rest of it. Now I'm actually going to start putting the thing back together again. So the first thing to go together is that the piston rings and the pistons need to go back into the block. Excuse me. So what we've got pistons over here. Here's one. It's attached to the con rod. I'm leaving the con rods attached for the moment so that when they're through I can pull them through. As you can see, I've put down a bin liner. The reason I've done that is that I'm going to be using some engine oil. I've got a plastic tub here with some engine oil in it, clean engine oil, 10W40 motorcycle engine oil. What I'm going to do is, before I put the pistons in, I'm going to put a bit of oil around them. I'm going to use the piston ring compression tool, which we've got here, which uses this kind of Allen key type thing, which is actually, it's not an Allen key, it's actually square section. Goes in like that, and you use it to compress the piston rings. Got a wee rag to sort of clean up any oil and what have you as we go along. And here we've got the piston rings. So we've got I think they're the secondary rings and the primary rings, the top ones and the bottom ones. How do you tell the difference? Okay, well here we've got a Haynes manual, a Honda Haynes manual, VFR800Fi 97201. So what we've got here is, this is the section on reinstalling the piston rings, section 29, chapter 2. What we've got here, I'm not going to read through all this just now because it'll take too long. What we've got is the diagram. As you can see, you've got the piston there, the oil rings which are already in, done that earlier, they're in place. So it's just the top rings to go in. So we've got two sets of rings, two different types of ring here. We've got the primary ring at the top and the secondary ring below that. Now, if you look at the secondary ring, you can see marked on there, it says, I don't know if you can see on the video, but it says RN, R for Romeo, N for November. Now, if we look at these rings, you can see we've got two different types of ring. So there's like a kind of black coloured ring and a sort of silvery colour, sort of polished kind of ring. Okay, now if we look at the black ring, and if you look at the very edge there, again I'm not sure if you're going to see this on the video, RN, Romeo November. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to put the RN ring on first. So I'm just going to do this by hand. I'm going to try and do it by hand. If I can't do it by hand, I might need to get the piston ring pliers. Right, I think I'm going to use the piston ring pliers. That'll make things a bit easier. Right, here we have piston ring pliers. Some of you will have seen these before from one of my previous videos when I was taking the rings out. So what we do, get those like that, open it out a bit, and the piston, oops, on you go. Kind of awkward, but almost on. There we go. And it's going into the wrong groove, so I'm going to have to carefully move it down to the next groove. Okay, it's gone right into the wrong groove. That's not really what I wanted. If I could peel it out a bit and move it down, get that out of there. There we go. Right, okay, so that's the first piston ring back in. Okay, I think we'll put those to one side. I think it's actually easier just doing it by hand. So next one. Okay, so that's both piston rings in, and they turn round easily. Maybe not have the gaps at the same place, maybe have them in a different kind of place. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Okay, so what's the easiest way to do this now? I think what we'll do, I'm going to try it like this. I'm going to put that through there carefully so as not to scratch the bore. And then I'm going to get the piston skirt into there, if it'll go. Okay. Right, so that's the piston into the bore, at least the piston skirt anyway. So what we've got is we've got just the top end of the piston with the rings still protruding. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get a little bit of oil. I'm just going to dip my finger in there. Try not to be too messy about this. I'm just going to put a bit of clean engine oil around the piston like that. By the way, don't take this as gospel as being the correct way to do this, because I'm not entirely sure it is the correct way to do it. The Haynes manual's not too specific about how you actually get the pistons back into the bores. So basically I've just kind of figured this out for myself. If anyone knows a better way to do this, feel free to put something in the comments. Don't need to be precious about it. Right, okay. So that's kind of lubed that up. Just clean my fingers up a bit. Excuse me. I'm just going to put this oil out of the way so I don't knock it and spill it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the piston ring compression tool over. Alright, that's not going to fit. Okay, so right, so what we do to release that is you just press the button. Put the key in first so it doesn't go mad. Okay, and then we're just going to let it out a bit. This compression tool is supposed to do up to like a 1000cc bike or something. So it should work okay on this. Should be big enough, I think. Right, there we go. So that's it. So I'm now holding that flush against the top of the bore. Okay, ish. There we go, that's better. Right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to tighten it. Okay, so that's just starting to compress the piston rings. So a bit more, good bit more. Right, that's now pretty much tight against the piston. I'm just going to maybe just put one more notch in just to be sure that it's sufficiently compressed the rings. There we go. Right, okay, so what we've got, skirt the piston in the bore, a little bit of piston protruding, piston rings in place, compressed with the tool, so the piston just needs to go into the bore. So what I'm hoping is that I can just kind of pull the piston through using the con rod. Again, don't quote me on this, I'm not actually sure that this is the right way to do this. I'm just kind of hoping that it works. Right, fingers crossed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this straight first. Okay, there's a con rod. Right, here we go. No, it's not coming. Right, okay, so I think that's maybe not tight enough then. Piston rings must be fouling on the top of the bore. So I'm just going to tighten this a wee bit more. Okay, won't actually tighten anymore. Right, I see what the problem is. The very bottom ring isn't actually compressed by the tool. So what I need to do, I need to loosen this off a bit. So I'm going to loosen it a wee bit. Just put that in just to control it. And just release it. Okay, here we go. Just release it again. Okay, right, so that's loosened that up a bit now. Push the piston back out a bit. You can see the edge of the very bottom ring there. That will be the problem. Right, there we go. That's it. Okay, so what we're going to do now, what we'll do, straighten the piston up. Right, so the compression tool is now overlapping the skirt a little bit, maybe just like 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch or something like that. Okay, so here we go. Tighten it up again. Okay, that's as tight as I can get it. So I'm going to turn round, back the other way. Okie dokie, hold that steady and pull that. Right, okay, so that's a bit further in. I think one of the piston rings has come slightly free of the edge of this and is catching on the top of the bore. Okay, this is a bit more tricky than I thought. Right, the problem is there's a slight, because of the way this is coiled, there's a slight gap and the edge of the ring has just come out of the gap. So what I'm going to have to do again, I'm going to have to loosen this again. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll turn this around a bit. Right, actually, let's take this off. Right, I actually achieved more than I thought, okay, because that is the very top ring. So I've actually got 2 rings in and 1 still to go. Okay, right, I think what we need to do is we need to, see that's the gap there, right? I think we need to line that gap up with somewhere other than this bit, because the gap in the piston ring was lined up with that, which is the worst possible place for it, because then one side sort of missed the edge, if you know what I mean. Right, so what I'm going to do, right, I'm just wondering, you can actually line that up a bit better. See, look at that. This bit moves to side slightly in relation to the other bit, so you can straighten it up a bit, and that might help as well. Right, okay, what I'm going to do, I'll turn that piston gap all the way to the bottom. Okay. Right, so the gap in the piston is now down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this bit at the top, or more or less at the top. I need to loosen it off a bit more. Okay, there we go. Right. bit looser still, I think. Right, I think that is pretty much flush with the top of the bore. Okay, so here we go. Tighten it again. Okay, that looks pretty tight around the piston, so I think that might do it. Let's give it another try. Oh yes. Right, okay. Done it. I have done it. Right, check this out. I like how that tool pings right over the other side of the bench. Right, okay. Okay. That's a first. I've just popped my piston cherry. That is a piston in a bore. Just noticed it's the wrong way round. Got in there an MBG there, but that's okay because I think it should turn round. There we go. So the inside should be where the induction port's in. So the induction ports will go in here, exhaust come out here. They got in there. I don't know why that's called MGB. I would have thought it'd be like EX or something, but whatever. So that's it. So that's a piston in the bore. Okay, nice one. Whew. Right, time for a coffee and a cig, I think.